Sportsnet 590, The Fan.
All quiet for Masai Ujiri on deadline day. I'm Andrew Walker with the Sportsnet Central update. The stretch run begins tonight for the Toronto Raptors. The roster will look the same as it did yesterday. Masai Ujiri makes no moves on deadline day.
We just didn't feel there was anything that really made a difference for us.
Ujiri will join the Jeff Blair Show at 9 o'clock this morning. It does bring us to tonight. Raptors get into their post-All-Star break portion of the schedule. They're in Atlanta taking on the Eastern Conference leading Hawks. They're 43-11, 6.5 games up on the Raps in the East. So tonight, that big swing game. You can catch this one right here on Sportsnet 590 The Fan at 7:30. Leafs back in action tonight as well. They're in Carolina to take on the 26th place Hurricanes. Carolina sitting 4 points back of the Leafs. Stellick and Osborne. We'll have your Leafs Nation postgame show right after here on Sportsnet 590 The Fan. Last night, the Florida Panthers, big win for them in Montreal. Panthers win at 3-2. They sit just 1 point back of 8th place Boston. Columbus 2-1 over Pittsburgh. How about Brandon Dubinsky? He scores the game winner and drops the glove with Sidney Crosby. A rare win for Buffalo. 3-2 over Philly in a shootout. Vancouver, a wild 5-4 win over the Rangers in a shootout as well. Henrik Sedin with 2 goals on the night. Back to the NBA. The Raptors were quiet, but there were plenty of other deals on deadline day, including the Milwaukee Bucks trading guard Brandon Knight to the Phoenix Suns. It's a 3-team deal. It sends Michael Carter-Williams, last year's Rookie of the Year, from Philly to Milwaukee. The Bucks also get Canadian point guard Tyler Ennis from the Suns. Reggie Jackson, who began the season replacing an injured Russell Westbrook, will now step in for the sideline Brandon Jennings in Detroit. Oklahoma sends Jackson to the Pistons in a 3-way trade that included Utah. Detroit sends guard DJ Augustine for Kyle Singler and a 2019 second-round pick to the Thunder. You're listening to the home of Leafs Nation, Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
Mommy and Daddy are fighting again. Great Brady and Andrew Walker. This is Brady and Walker. Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
You bring some kind of pent-up player, I think it takes it takes away the growth of some of your young guys, and then it doesn't assure you anything.
Masai Ujiri, Brady and Walker, Sportsnet 590 The Fan. It is 6:04 on your Friday, and yes, that extreme cold weather warning, it remains in effect. Today might be the coldest of any day. Minus 23 right now, getting up to a high of minus 14, but the wind chill is going to be prevalent as well. So we talked yesterday about the Toronto Raptors and the trade deadline. There's one thing about the NBA, common sense would tell you that unless something unbelievable fell in their lap, the Raptors were probably not going to do anything. So, what value, do you put on continuity, right? Letting these guys just be themselves for really the last 2 years. And the second part is, were you almost in the back of your mind expecting something crazy? Because that's what happens in the NBA. Like Tyler Ennis and Michael Carter-Williams got dealt yesterday. It doesn't happen in hockey, but it can happen in the NBA.
Yeah, the motivation for some teams to do what they did, you'd say, in the NHL, it feels like there's strict buyers and strict sellers, and there aren't a lot of transactions that are an expiring contract. Teams want to get rid of expiring contracts when they're, when they're bad.
Right, and you want to rent and Mike Santorelli.
And in the NHL, you want to rent players when you're good. And the NBA has a lot of twists and turns when it comes to trade deadline time. I didn't think Toronto would do anything. I'm pleased to see that really Cleveland may be in the mix to pick up Kendrick Perkins, who's been waived. Okay, fine, great, off the bench. Chicago did nothing. Washington got a little bit of backup help with Ramon Sessions for their point guards. But for the most part, Atlanta did nothing. The contenders are the contenders. They're the same teams they were. What's going to be really interesting, and I had this conversation with a few people yesterday, and you tell me what I think. The team I said to be worried about anyway, because you got to find some storylines over the last 26 games. They're going to walk to the Atlantic Division. They're going to flirt with being second seed, third seed. Make sure you don't play Miami. And now Miami's added Dragic. And you've got a starting lineup probably with Dragic, D. Wade, Bosch, Luol Deng, and not Michael Keaton, but the Birdman, Chris Anderson, Michael Keaton. So, if they're healthy, to me that's a comparable starting lineup just for this break, just for a 2-week span. If they're healthy, it's big F. big comparables lineup to the Raps starting lineup. Now, it's not even a fair fight coming off the bench. Miami has no bench compared to the Raptors. Raptors have a deeper bench by a mile. But I think there's I don't know how you arrange this goal, Andrew, because a lot of people accuse Brooklyn of trying to get the Raptors last year. But over the span of the next month and a half, I'd like to see the Raptors find a way to avoid playing the Miami Heat, and I'd rather they played Milwaukee or Charlotte or Brooklyn if Brooklyn even could get in. I'd like to not. I'd have a nightmare a little bit over it.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Miami is an 8 seed now that doesn't really look like an 8 seed. I totally agree with you. And there's really nothing you can do here. I mean, the Raptors might beat Atlanta tonight, find themselves 5.5 back, and then they get a big run at the Hawks. And then Miami can just you can beat them anyway. There's really nothing you can do. But of that, Milwaukee, Charlotte, and I don't mind the Bucks, but let's say Charlotte, Miami, Brooklyn, Boston, Detroit, Indiana, all these teams are still alive for that 7th and 8th seed. You're right. Of course, Miami is the most dangerous game.
And they've been injuries. Dwayne Wade's missed 15 games. Chris Bosh has missed 10 games. And now he's in the hospital. Yeah, with a lung problem. So he's kept in hospital overnight. They don't believe it to be life-threatening in the least, but he kind of had a collapse in practice and had struggles with Luol Deng's missed a bunch of games. So they've had guys that have been banged up and been injured, but it's still a team that for just that first 2 weeks, for that first round, you don't want to see them in the least. And then you juxtapose that with what you said tonight. The game for the Raptors is sort of a, with 27, 28 games left, they win it, they get within 5.5 of Atlanta, and ears will prick up and eyebrows will prick up a little bit, and you might think, Atlanta's had that magical run, and are they going to have a little bit of a crash? Is this the 5-hour energy crash after you take it? Is this the giant protein scoop of pre-workout powder that almost killed me? That's right. Is this Andrew Walker 1 p.m. on Thursday? And maybe it's not just the Raps, but the Bulls, but the Cavs that are going to tease and get back into the race for first overall. If you lose tonight, you just say, sayonara first place. It's not meant to be. Yeah, if you lose in Atlanta, you go 7.5 back with that much time left, you're not going to get it.
Explain to me, then, like, if the Toronto, again, this doesn't happen in hockey, and maybe it's silly to compare sometimes, but if the Toronto Raptors yesterday de-alloy Bruno Caboclo, you kind of think, well, what was the point of all that? What was the point? The draft and the getting them some playing time, and as you call it, the human victory cigar, and the D-League stints, and the practice, and learning from Jamal McGlure and down the list. Tyler Ennis, the Canadian kid, the Raptors want him on trade deadline day. They tried to get him on trade deadline day, and it was virtually impossible. Now he's a new team 4 months into the season. I don't get it. Even Ed Davis, they drafted Ed Davis 13th overall, and he